Hi guys, welcome back and thanks for joining me. I've been to a car boot sale and I picked up some sort of boneyard guns. They both work. I picked up this and a sniper rifle. But this MP5 really caught my eye and I was quite interested in it. Now it does work. A nice chap sold it to me for 20 quid and I couldn't leave it there. So I've had a little look at it. It's got a few issues. Mainly, it's missing this the shroud, or what would you call it, the handguard for the front end, and it's missing the front sight sort of block here. I'll give you a closer look at that. But it came with a little suppressor that fits on the end here, and but because it's missing that front end, it doesn't really tighten on very well, so it's a bit wobbly. But it came with two mags, and it does work. I did a chrono test and it was about 300 feet per second, which is pretty good. It's a very short barrel for a gun, so that velocity is pretty good. The gearbox sounded reasonable. It's probably long overdue a service. But if you saw my comment in the last video, I said that you probably saw that I already had a tinker with it. And I've already freed up this buttstock. This was stuck in place. It would barely retract all the way. It'd get to about there and then get stuck. But that was just a buildup of paint. This is a two-tone gun, so it's already had two-tone paint, and then it's had Krylon on top. So there's quite a thick buildup of paint on there. So it was just a case of cleaning it out in here, cleaning the stock, and freeing up this mechanism here to release it. But now that works properly. But it's also got a problem where there's a crack right here by the magazine catch, and I wonder if this is a common problem with these, because it looks like a very weak spot on the gun, and I'd imagine that might be a common fault. Well, nothing much really to get into with this one apart from the exterior. I probably won't try to change the exterior. I just want to sort of get into it and get it working nice. But yeah, it'll just be taking it apart, having a look inside, servicing the gearbox, see what we're working with, and just a nice watch-along repair video. I did forget to mention that it's missing the selector switch on the left side. It's there on the right side, and safe, semi, and full auto, they all work just fine. By the chrono test, you probably saw that it seemed to have a handguard out of nowhere. I did make one. I made one out of a bit of ABS pipe that I sort of stretched and then reformed by heating with boiling water. I'll show you how I do that. And then just painted it black. It's just there as a placeholder for now, just to hold the battery in. But it just sort of friction fits on there. Let me see if I can get it on there for you. It's a little bit awkward. There we go. It'll do for now. So let's crack on with the disassembly. This screw has stripped out the plastic, but I'm going to do something to fix that later on. Now I've not taken one of these apart before, so I'm not quite sure exactly how to get the selector switch out. I'm going to try just pushing on it. Oh, yeah, okay. Simple as that. Well, it seems to be, yeah, okay. Now, to my knowledge, this is a version 2 gearbox like your regular M4. That's what I'm expecting to see. Now, I was going to film the entire disassembly of this gun, but it's not really the sort of video that I want to make. You've all seen disassembly videos on YouTube, and that's not the interesting part that I want to show you. I want to show you things like making this handguard and fixing these stripped out threads in these plastic parts here. That's the sort of thing that I want to show you. So it slows me down anyway to film it. So I'm going to zip through the disassembly and I'll just bring you back then if I find anything interesting that I want to talk about. Okay, see you guys in a minute. Yeah, so that'll need a nice clean out. Move a lot better then. Okay, gearbox is out and it doesn't look too bad. Let's pull him out of the shell all the way. I'm not used to taking these things apart, but it wasn't too bad. Right, let's have a look. Now, one of the things I'd like to do is reach in and detension the actual the mechanism. So push on the reversal stop latch to just let all of the spring tension go. Because then I want to be able to feel what kind of slop there is in these in the pivots for all of the gears. Because I want to know if it's been shimmed too tight. The gun seemed a little sluggish. I can't remember how many rounds per second it said in the chrono. I'll just splice that back in now. But it just seemed a little sluggish. And I took that same battery and I tested it in my in the M4 that I repaired, the Nuprol Delta M4, and it fired much higher rate of fire. I might actually film that and splice that in too, so you guys can see. So it just feels like energy's being lost somewhere. In terms of the power though, it must have a good air seal or a reasonable air seal, because the power seemed absolutely fine. And it looks like the cylinder's ported the right amount for that length of barrel. I don't know exactly how much they're supposed to be ported, but to me, to my untrained eye, that looks about right. Okay, there's a little bit of movement on the bevel gear, but not very much. I mean, that seems like the perfect amount of shimming on that bevel gear. Like, it's slightly tighter than I would do it, but that does have a bit of slop in it, but it's the smallest amount. I wonder if it has been looked at. Maybe. But I can't get to the other ones to check it, so I've got to find a way to get this selector plate off first. Okay, that's got movement. That's the spur gear. That's got I would say a little bit excessive movement, but not terrible. And then the sector gear, that's got movement too. So I don't think there's any tight spots in the shimming. I could say that bevel is maybe a wee bit on the tight side, but that does depend on how strict you are on your on the end shake. Because some guys who shim gearboxes, they get them to the absolute nth degree, and I would say that's what this one feels like. But it still has end shake, so I don't think it's binding there. So shimming seems fine. This one here, the pivot on the sector gear, feels a little gritty when I move it back and forth, so it might be stuck a little bit. It might be a little bit worn, or the lubricant's dried up. We'll come back to the gearbox later, because what I want to get into now is this handguard. Where did I put it? Here. I want to get into the handguard for now and how I made that. So let me show you what I did. Okay, so like I said, I used ABS pipe to make this. Now I did mean ABS when I said that, because you can get plumbing pipe in PVC or ABS. This is ABS. I don't think it really matters. You could use PVC. The reason I choose ABS is because it is the same kind of plastic as the guns are typically made from, and ABS takes acrylic spray paint very well. Let me stop that rattling about. So I'll just show you. There you go, calipers. I'm going to check the size of the pipe here. 43mm, but it was sold as 40mm pipe, which is a pretty standard plumbing size in the UK. But the trick to make a good handguard with this is to use a bit of lined paper. Now the pipe itself is almost the right size to be the handguard, but it's a bit too tight. But if you cut a slit in it and then stretch it open like that, it will be the right size to fit on with nothing to spare. So the trick with a lined paper is you get a square cut. So if I roll this paper around, now usually, obviously, you know, if your paper has been made properly, it should be pretty square, and you've got lots of reference lines to line up. You can see when I wrap this pipe around, the edge line for the border on the edge of the paper is practically touching. So I know that now this, if I trace around that with a Sharpie, I can get a clean 90-degree edge like that. Also, the lines of the lined paper describe a straight line along the tube, because it's a bit tricky to draw a straight line along a piece of tube. So you'd measure out the length. I can't remember what it is. You just got to use a ruler and check the length that your handguard needs to be. Make one mark with this side of the paper. In fact, you could probably cut the paper to the right, cut the page to the right width, so that the width matches the length. Wrap it around, draw with a Sharpie mark, and then using one of these lines, put a mark there and a mark there on that same line. And then you'd use well, I used a junior hacksaw to cut the pipe, and that was just right. I used a metal cutting blade. The teeth were fine enough. A wood cutting blade in there might be a bit too coarse. Anyway, let me show you the next step. If I hold them up next to each other, you can see that this one, if I squeeze it together, wants to spring out. But this one, which I've cut a slot in, it wants to spring back in. And I found that just doing that and then trying to slip it onto the gun, it was too tight, and it was just it was clamping down too tight on the gun, and I thought it might cause damage or be a pain to move. I wanted a better fit, so I did that. And the way that I did that is very easy. I took the same pipe which I cut the section off of, and you can see where I actually put it back on the pipe to paint it, and I just stretched it over the pipe like this. And you can see the gap lines up perfectly. And then you just pour boiling water on this, which I'll do for you now. And then it'll set the memory of the plastic, and then it'll want to stay sprung open like this. And then that's like the perfect tension then for your handguard. So I've got about 4 cups worth of water in this kettle. That's 4 mugs. And I'm pouring it all on because I want to make sure there's got plenty of heat in there. Do. Alright, and now I'll just leave it to cool and we'll be right back. It's had about 15 minutes to cool. I wanted to give it plenty of time. Now that's totally at room temperature. So let's slide it off the form and we'll see if it's taken the memory. Yes, it has. So now it always wants to be spread open slightly like that. And that's essentially what I did to make the handguard. I just painted it black after that. And that'll slip onto the fore end of the gun much more easily. Now let's get into the plastic repair. I have to repair the stripped threads on this handguard piece, the inner part of the handguard, and the magwell on the actual receiver of the gun. But we'll start with this. There. So those threads, they're totally gone. Now I'm going to be like plugging this and then re-drilling it, just like you would if you're repairing something made out of wood. You'd glue in a wooden plug and then re-drill it, and then I believe these are self-tapping screws, so I'm going to drill a pilot hole, the diameter of the shank of the screw, and then let the threads cut themselves in when I screw it in again. And what we're going to use to do that is modeling solvent for plastic model kits like Tamiya kits and things like that. And because this is ABS plastic, now I can't remember how you say ABS, the proper word for it, but what I do know is the last word is styrene, and model kits are made out of polystyrene. So this solvent works just fine. I'm sure Tamiya extra thin would work as well. But it dissolves the plastic, and we're going to be melting in some plastic like this. Now this is Plasticard. You can get it from model shops. It's literally just a sheet of plastic. But it's really handy stuff. You just score it and snap it, and you can get any size you need. But I'll be cutting a small strip of this, whittling it until it's like a dowel, and then gluing it in, and then I'll probably need to leave it overnight to set up properly. Then I'll use my little pin vise, which is like a very small hand drill, to drill the pilot hole, and that should fix the threads. I'm just going to be wicking as much of this solvent in as I can. It's pretty thin stuff. I think it's thinner than water, so it should just work itself into every little pocket. Oh, good God! It's a good thing I had the cap on. Jeepers creepers. There we go. So you can see it just dropped in a bit further because it started to dissolve. Yeah. I think that'll be alright, to be honest, because we don't need it to perfectly fill the hole. We just need some more material in there for the threads to bite into. I'll leave that to cure, and let's look at the receiver next. So here's the receiver. Same as before, you can see the crack. Oh, dear, my hand's in the light there. There's the crack. And I've already removed this metal plate, and I have a plan for that. I'm going to make a different size metal plate and actually bridge this gap. Before we get there, I want to stabilize this piece first so it doesn't move when we're trying to repair it. Now, before I do anything, I want to use a small knife to actually scrape the paint off, because I don't want it contaminating the weld, because technically we're welding the plastic, we're not gluing it. I want to douse it in the solvent to make sure it really gets into that crack, and I'm actually going to move it as well to work it in there. And it should get kind of stringy and gummy in there where the plastic is kind of melting and then trying to bond again. Keep it wet for a little while, and if any of it drips, keep your fingers out of the way of the drips, because what's going to happen is you're going to leave fingerprints behind on your gun. And they'll be forever etched into the plastic. But this isn't the fix. I wouldn't rely solely on this to repair the gun, because it's just not strong enough. I'm going to reinforce it after that, but like I said, we're just stabilizing it for now.